Hi, I'm Russ Lawson, and at almost 78 years old, I'm a modern homesteader. Now, people can discuss whether or not homesteading is true homesteading today or not, but I believe it is. We moved 2.5 miles up on top of a mountain off the main road, which is a secondary road, and we've been living here for over a year now and been working at it. And I'm going to show you some of that and show you some of what we're doing and how we're doing it as we talk about homesteading. See, originally homesteading was out west. Okay, when they opened up Oklahoma Territory and so forth, they gave you a certain amount of land, and you had to build a house, had to improve on it, and live there for so long, and then it would be deeded over to you. Well, it gave them security, it gave them a way to eat, a way to grow their own things, and we don't have quite the same problems now, but some of us are a little tighter to the belt than others. But anyway, now it's a choice, right? We choose to be homesteaders. And by that, I mean we choose to grow our own food as much as possible, to live with our own security as much as possible, to be off the grid as much as possible. And that is a growing thing for us all the time. But it's a choice to do this and to be in this situation. So we're going to talk more about that. I'll show you around our little homestead out here in the mountains. We have 3.5 acres, 2 ponds, an older house built in 1970, I believe, and it was a mess. We've done lots and lots of reconstruction, and we'll share with you, my wife and I. We live up in the mountains of East Tennessee, 2.5 miles off the secondary road. You can see some of the road behind me, I think, that we're coming down. I'll show you a little bit more of that later on. But it's can be argued whether or not this is true homesteading. I was listening to another website just the other day, and on that website he says you're not homesteaders. Homesteaders were back in the 1800s. To a certain extent, he's right. The original Homestead Act took place back in the 1800s, and they would go out west, Oklahoma, and so forth. They would have to claim some land, clear the land, build a homestead, build a house to live in, clear some land that they could grow foodstuffs on, all that type of things, so that they could be self-sufficient there. And if they stayed for a certain period of time, the government then would give the deed over to them, and they could be the ones who lived there. But it was all, agriculture. They had to provide their own food, provide their own heat, provide their own light, whatever. They had to provide for it themselves. That was what the beginning of homesteading was about. Now, for us today, it's a little different. Okay, we have chosen. It's not a matter of need so much as it is choosing to be homesteaders. And we homestead because we want to. Okay, we wanted to be away from the cities. We wanted to be more self-sufficient. We wanted to be able to support ourselves, to provide as much as possible our own utilities, electric, water, whatever. So we found, quite by accident, a piece of property up in the mountains. Now, initially, when we moved down here almost 2 years ago, living in a fifth wheel on my brother's property, we found a piece of property originally. It was only about 1.5 acres, and we were going to have a built house put in there for us so that we could live in that place. Made all of our plans, bought the house, paid for everything, get it all ready, and they came out and did the inspections and said, sorry, this ground doesn't pass the perk test and you can't build here. So we started from scratch all over again, started looking for property. And we looked for months. Finally, we were driving down the road one day and we saw a sign. It said for sale by owner, and it had a sign pointing up this little road. So we followed the road up and found this property. It looked like a pretty nice property. We called the number, made arrangements to meet the owner the next day. We bought it the next day. Maybe we jumped in a little bit too soon, because once we got into the house, we didn't move into the house. We weren't able to move into the house for several months. Once we got in and started going through it and finding out what terrible condition it was and how much repair had to be done before it would be considered livable, it was a lot of work, okay? And we've got 90% of all the work on the interior done. We're getting ready to remodel our kitchen now because it's original from 1970, and we'll see where that goes, but we're about ready to start on that. So anyway, I'm going to show you around the property. I'll show you some of the road getting up here. We'll talk a little bit about that and what our plans are for the future. So hang in there, and we'll get to that in a minute. This is the road coming up to our property, the last part before the main, from the main road anyway, down the side there. That is a drop off, goes down about 500-600 feet. As we on the other road going up, this road's has built on top of a ridge top, and it has drop off 1,000-1,500 feet on the side, which makes my wife kind of nervous. So, what's where we're doing with that. But here is the entrance to our property over here. And so we've gated it. We don't get a lot of traffic up here, but probably a dozen cars a day, because this is a through road. You can go down the other side of the mountain as you go down that way. So this is our property. We have it gated, fenced, and as you can see over here, we have a security system that is 24 hours a day, monitored surveillance on our property. So that's part of it. And of course, this leads down to our property itself. So this is our drive, probably about 700-800 feet up to the road from here, from the house. And you can see it's idyllic, kind of. It's beautiful, shaded, arched over with trees. Property of ours over to the side here goes down and through there. You can't really see much, but I'll show you more of that later. So as you come down and look at the presentation of the house, and our son's here, we have a nice looking little house, has a wraparound porch on 3/4 of the house. So that's kind of a nice feature there too. This over here is what we refer to as the lower meadow. Goes down beside the pond on that side, and it's a lovely little area. Terrible to mow, but lovely little area. This little house here, this little house is about a 4x6 house, and the previous owners who originally lived here had this little house built, and it was built as a dollhouse. When the people we got it from were here, they said that when they first bought the property and went through it, it actually had porcelain dolls sitting in the house. It was built just for the ladies' dolls, no other purpose. So that's part of where that's at and what's going on with that. Now, this is our porch, our house, and it's not very good condition. I mean, it needs refinished, needs resealed right now. The house needs to be cleaned. We do what we can when we can. When we first bought the place, they had where I've got my little rock garden, which is kind of grown up right now. It's hard to maintain everything when you're doing it yourself. This was a pond for fish, and it was full of frogs and mosquitoes. So we dug that out, filled it in, and I've made a little rock garden area. See my hostas and daisies or daffodils and irises and things that are, of course, dying back now for the winter. But this is part of where we're at in the house. So we will talk more about the house and the road and things like that as we go on. Of course, here's our garage. Has 2 lean-to buildings, has a metal building in back, plus a building for my mowers and stuff. So we've got a lot of room here. So we'll talk more about that later.